Hello and welcome to another weekend file on the NTA. We are live in Abuja. Floods are among the natural disasters that cause human hardship and economic loss. Nigeria is in the peak of flooding season, with some states already experiencing a high degree of flooding incidents with attendant incalculable disasters and losses as of today. Virtually all the flood incidents are caused by overflow of silted rivers and poor drainage systems as a result of localized rainfalls that generated flash and urban flooding in the urban areas. Now, there have been warnings from relevant agencies that some parts of the country may experience flood as a result of water being released from dams within and outside the country. Communities residing at banks of rivers have also been directed to leave to safer places. But how are the affected people responding to the advice? What are the provisions made by the state government, and how are the state governments handling the evacuation processes? That's the focus on Weekend File tonight as we look at averting flood disaster. We do have updates from Zems, and our guest is Al Hassan Nuhu, Director, Relief and Rehabilitation, NEMA. I am Kenan Ima Abudike. The news now. President Muhammadu Buhari has restated his conviction that with the renewed efforts of the Nigerian military, terrorism, insurgency, banditry and other forces of violent crimes in the country will soon be a thing of the past. This was while receiving an audience the Prime Minister of Ireland, Michael Martin, on the margins of the ongoing UN General Assembly. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the President also granted audience to the Greek Prime Minister.
President Muhammadu Buhari had told the Irish leader that in the past few months, new platforms have been deployed in the fight against insecurity in parts of the country, and morale is high amongst the security forces. Nigeria, he said, is moving steadily towards overcoming its security challenges and will continue to partner friendly nations in this regard. The president assured his guests that Nigeria will remain steadfast in sustaining the relationship with Ireland in critical economic sectors, especially education. Prime Minister Michael Martin had told the Nigerian leader that Ireland is looking for ways to increase the level of relations with the country, even as Nigeria remains Ireland's largest trading partner in Africa. He expressed the hope that his country would move into other areas like the deployment of technology to help Nigeria overcome its challenges in health and security.
Also, talking about multilateral cooperation, the challenges that are posed by the war in Ukraine and what Nigeria can do, because Europe now is facing an energy crisis, especially with gas. So Nigeria, which is a predominantly gas-producing country, Mr. President was pointing out, could also help to fill some of the shortfall gaps that Europe will be experiencing.
In a separate meeting with the Prime Minister of Greece, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, President Buhari called for closer partnership with Nigeria in education, health, security, as well as non-oil and gas sectors. The Prime Minister informed the Nigerian leader that Greece possesses the technological know-how in security, surveillance, as well as intelligence gathering and utilization, and is in a position to assist Nigeria as there is no alternative to peace.
Prime Minister of Greece pointed out that Greece is one of the top 10 countries doing the best in with renewable energies, that industry, and willing to share their experience and invest in Nigeria. And also Greece, they pointed out, has great experience in, it's a shipbuilding nation and a maritime nation, but also they've developed a lot of experience in coastal water security and patrolling. And of course we have huge challenges in that area, especially with oil bunkering and sabotage in our oil industry. and the possibility of Greece, providing some frigates and other ships to help.
The Prime Minister extended an invitation to President Muhammadu Buhari to visit Greece before the end of his tenure. The President of Guinea-Bissau and ECOWAS Chairman Umaru Sissoco Embalo also came calling. Details of their discussions with the Nigerian leader held behind closed doors were however not disclosed. From New York, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The federal government has restated Nigeria's commitment to consistently strengthen resilience and sustain development through improved synergy between humanitarian and development actors as well as peace-building partners towards charting the future of peace and prosperity. President Muhammadu Buhari said this at a high-level event on humanitarian intervention organized by the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development on the margins of the UN General Assembly in New York. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo again reports.
The event, attended by critical stakeholders involved in humanitarian action and disaster mitigation, is put together to strategize on more efficient, collaborative and resourceful means of integrating and sustaining humanitarian interventions for improved livelihood for those in need. It has as its theme strengthening resilience and sustaining development, a humanitarian development peace approach to leaving no one behind.
Leaving no one behind means proactively identifying, empowering, and galvanizing the agency of those most at risk of being left behind.
The United Nations is committed to exercise our global leadership and comparative advantage in trying to deploy the solutions and the pathways to peace that ultimately strengthen the resilience of our countries and people.
For President Muhammadu Buhari, the high-level event is not only timely but reflective of the urgent need for continuous engagement towards reinforcing existing capacities and strengthening coping strategies in view of the uncertainty and unpredictability of the global community in the last 3 years.
The task before this August gathering, therefore, is how to analyze our shared experiences over the years, the effectiveness of our responses at the international and domestic levels, the gaps identified, and devise possible transformational solutions for the future.
The President said already policies, frameworks, programs and plans that form the foundation necessary for building resilience have been developed by his administration, and visionary changes are made consistently towards achieving a future of peace and prosperity in the country.
As we deliberate on these issues, let us remind ourselves of our duty to humanity and our planet, the vulnerability we all face in conflicts and disasters. I implore you to actively engage on how we can leverage the existing coordination framework and the National Humanitarian Development Peace Plan to realize a triple nexus approach to leaving no one behind.
The Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, who convened the high-level event, announced a presidential approval of the Nigerian Humanitarian Hub. The hub, she said, is designed to serve as a one-stop shop for humanitarian interventions to those most in need, as well as improve access to specialized services curated for persons of concern.
As actors and leaders, citizens, I trust upon us the responsibility of charting a future of peace and prosperity. This we can only guarantee through strategic foresight and committed and visionary leadership.
The nexus between peace, security and development need not be overemphasized. If there is no peace, there will be no security. And if there is no security, there is no development. The insurgency is coming to an end. I've started seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
As you may be aware, women are a driving force in disaster risk reduction and emergency response, and therefore should not be left unattended to.
The high-level event is co-organized by the UNHCR, United Nations Development Programme, African Union, and the International Organization for Migration, IOM. From New York, Adamu Sambo.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari says for countries in Africa to rise to their full potentials and guarantee a better life for their citizens, their leaders must work tirelessly to get rid of corruption as a necessity and not a choice. Speaking in New York at a high-level event on corruption organized by AUDA, NEPAD and EFCC, the president expressed worry that the continent remains at the far end of Global Development Index due to its menace. State House correspondent Muhammadu again has the details.
The event with the theme Food Security Response, Combating Illicit Financial Flows and Securing Assets Returned for Sustainable Development is in furtherance of sustained efforts by AUDA NEPAD Nigeria to promote peer learning for best practices and strengthen partnership for good governance.
And to see 88.6 billion per year spent on these illicit financing is not really acceptable. And when we ask our partners for resources, they do not really take us seriously.
I would like to commend the role of Nigeria, the government of Nigeria, really in driving the issues around illicit financial flows. In reality, it has played a major role.
President Muhammadu Buhari, who was the African Union champion on efforts to eliminate corruption, regretted bitterly the corrosive effect of the menace and strongly advised African leaders to fight it 24/7 as a matter of necessity.
Corruption has dwarfed our growth and tainted our nations and the continent. Africa remains at the far end of the Development Index, and concerted efforts made in the last few years need to be sustained, deepened by good governance and accountability that are guided by the rule of law.
To achieve this, the president said there must be strong resolve and commitment to eliminate illicit financial flows and utilize effectively recovered assets in delivering public good, especially in the provision of food.
Food crisis, illicit financial flows, and asset recovery are cross-cutting issues that necessarily need to be addressed holistically in the realization of our collective objective for global food security and sustainable infrastructural development and progress of our continent, so that we can take our rightful place among nations.
The Chief Executive Officer of AUDA NEPAD Nigeria, Gloria Akobundu, who organized the event, made a strong case for African leaders to remain steadfast in combating illicit financial flows as an essential development challenge.
If Africa's population and land space are credibly and productively harnessed, we will not only address these challenges, but will be a turnaround for world economic growth and sustainable development.
This event will be an opportunity to consolidate on the gains of His Excellency's unwavering efforts and aspirations for accountability, probity, and good governance.
For the chairman of the EFCC, Abdul Rashid Bawa, this high-level event is a wake-up call for the anti-graft agency to remain alive to its responsibilities.
Nigeria should expect, a more robust EFCC. You are aware that the president recently has approved over 5 billion naira for us, and we are going all out to ensure that non-designated businesses and professions that are expected to be in compliance with the new Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act are in compliance with that act. And these are the gatekeepers of money laundering. Without them, people that are stealing funds, we believe, will not be stealing the funds.
During the event, a critical compendium on the impact of illicit financial flows on Nigeria's socio-economic and political development was presented to President Muhammadu Buhari by his Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, on behalf of the EFCC and AUDA NEPAD Nigeria. From New York, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
The Nigeria Integrated National Financing Framework on Sustainable Development has been formally launched by President Muhammadu Buhari. It is aimed at mobilizing a much-needed sustainable financing plan for Nigeria to deliver on her commitment to the SDGs and other national development aspirations. The strategic high-level event took place in New York on the margins of the UN General Assembly.
It is with some pride that I present to you the Nigeria Integrated National Financing Framework Report 2022.
The Integrated National Financing Framework Report is a tool towards improving SDG financing without increasing public debt and contingent liabilities to levels that are detrimental to Nigeria's economic sustainability. This event presents another opportunity for stakeholders to discuss the mileage covered so far and the next steps of action by the Buhari administration in its commitment towards bringing the SDGs to a point where no one is left behind.
This financing strategy is supported by a clear roadmap and monitoring framework with the necessary transparency and accountability to make public spending more effective for the benefit of the people. As we speak, Mr. President, we have coordinated about 18 state governments to integrate the sustainable development goals in their policy program and budget. We believe that before the end of administration, we will cover the 6 states and FCT, so that all of us will work in tandem with the aspiration of sustainable development goals.
President Muhammadu Buhari said since joining his colleagues at the 70th session of the UN General Assembly to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Nigeria set for herself a purposeful goal of seeing an economically sustainable, socially inclusive, and environmentally resilient future.
For Nigeria and indeed Africa as a whole, achieving the SDGs will mean ending poverty and hunger, safeguarding our ecosystem and the planet, and ensuring our people live in peace and prosperity by their 2030. Despite the challenges posed by the sharp drop in the prices of crude oil and the coronavirus pandemic, Nigeria has remained resolute in our genuine desire to maintain and grow our economy.
With this new financing strategy, Nigeria hopes to not only promote the strategic alignment of financial policies with sustainable development, but also promote the enabling conditions for domestic and international public and private financial sectors to best respond to the nation's national needs.
It is pertinent to state that achieving inclusive, broad-based, and sustainable development is a cardinal objective of our administration. I urge all Nigerians, the international community, and our development partners to recognize the importance of this integrated approach to financing development as we continue to count on your leadership in its immediate implementation.
There are goodwill messages from the United Nations, the European Union, and the UNDP.
I'm glad to see my own country, its leadership, Nigeria, leading the way not only in Africa, but also at the global level. The United Nations proudly stands with Nigerians to support them as they tap into these opportunities and take the next steps in the country's amazing journey.
I firmly believe that if Nigeria, the most populous country on the continent and the largest economy in Africa, succeeds in its efforts to achieve the SDGs, it will be a tremendous boost to other countries on the continent and in fact in the world.
During the event, key participants applauded Nigeria for successfully completing the Integrated National Financing Framework journey aimed at helping policymakers to lay out strategies to increase investments and manage financial and non-financial risks towards achieving sustainable development priorities. From New York, Adamu Sambo, NTA.
Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Umar Zulum has addressed multinational groups in New York, United States of America, towards increasing focus on the education of girls in Nigeria and around the world. The governor traveled to the U.S. as part of President Muhammadu Buhari's delegation to the 77th United Nations General Assembly. Aside his participation at the United Nations General Assembly, Zulum was invited as a special guest speaker at a program tagged Rewrite the Future to call attention towards increased investment on girls' education around the world. The event was organized by a non-governmental organization, 1 Million Teachers, 1 MT Cares, in collaboration with 2 other NGOs, Girl Rising and the Northeast Children's Trust. Governor Zulum made a presentation titled Investing in Girls' Education in Nigeria with a focus on Borno State. He noted that to augment gaps in girl child education, the federal government in collaboration with states introduced a program, Better Education Service Delivery and Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment Project, targeted at educating girls of school age. The governor said the programs are vehicles for increasing the enrollment of the girl child into schools. In the northern part of Borno State, a deficit of girl child education is overwhelming. We need more teachers, more training of teachers, laboratory equipment to enable our children to have better education, Zulum said. The governor said the state educational system was worsened by over 12 years of the Boko Haram insurgency, which was now on decline. He said aside deaths of over 100,000 persons and displacement of about 2 million, the insurgents targeted many schools. Zulum cited that over 5,000 school buildings were destroyed by Boko Haram. He said out of 1,357 primary schools across Borno State, 512 primary schools, dozens of secondary schools and some tertiary institutions were destroyed. These attacks made many schools to close down and also brought down a number of teachers. He noted the Chibok abduction and forced marriage of some of the students as a reference point. The governor said there are many out-of-school children, particularly amongst 52,293 orphans whose parents were killed by insurgents. Now, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says preparations for the forthcoming United Nations World Trade Organization a global conference to be hosted by Nigeria is in top gear. The minister said this at a media briefing in Lagos. Anthony Forson reports.
I got the nod to host the global conference last year in Cape Verde. At today's briefing, the minister said the United Nations World Tourism Organization officials that arrived in Nigeria for an on-the-spot assessment on the level of Nigeria's preparedness are satisfied.
The team inspected the national theatre, some designated hotels, as well as the venue for the special program on Nollywood. The team equally met with the planning committee and received a comprehensive brief from the team, and I'm pleased to inform you that the team is very satisfied with the level of Nigerian preparedness to host the global conference.
Having enumerated the gains for Nigeria, he assured that Nigeria is safe for participants and visitors.
I want to say without any exaggeration, without any issue, that the current challenges in Nigeria is very exaggerated. And that's why we took the opportunity just 2 weeks ago, by the joint press conference, myself, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, South Police Affairs, to let the world know that lots of challenges, but we're on top of those challenges. We have challenges, but you also agree with me that Lagos is probably one of the safest countries in the world. And when you look at what happens in other parts of the world, everywhere without the same crime.
The global conference on tourism, culture, and the creative industry will hold in Lagos from the 14th to 16th of November. In Lagos, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
In politics, President Muhammadu Buhari has been nominated as the chairman of the All Progressives Congress 2023 Presidential Campaign Council. In a statement, Secretary of the party's Presidential Campaign Council, James Faleke, said among the nominees are the APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the deputy chairman, APC national chairman Abdullahi Adamu as the deputy chairman too, vice presidential candidate Kashim Shettima as vice chairman, and the Plateau State Governor Simon Lalong is the director general. The Presidential Campaign Council has zonal coordinators, state coordinators, advisors, and campaign patrons. It also comprises directors, deputy directors, secretaries, and directorates that will supervise about 33 directorates. Major streets in Abuja witnessed an unusual road to work this Saturday by youths in solidarity with the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi. The solidarity walk took off from the Unity Fountain to Airport Road and other major roads in the Federal Capital Territory. The youth said they are taking the opportunity to exercise and give Nigerians an idea of what to expect ahead of campaigns, which is scheduled to begin on the 28th of September. Some of the organizers, including musical artist Charles Oputa, said while they are keeping fit, they look forward to a better tomorrow in Nigeria. INEC had set September 28 for the commencement of campaign for presidential and National Assembly elections, while that of governorship and state houses of assembly will commence on October 12, 2022. The federal government has assured that it will take all necessary measures to put a stop to the rising cases of crude oil theft in the country. Information and Culture Minister Muhammadu stated this at a media briefing shortly after embarking on an aerial surveillance of Trans-Forcados pipelines in Rivers State. Anthony Forsen reports.
The Information and Culture Minister was on an aerial surveillance of Trans-Forcados oil pipeline in Rivers State, where he saw firsthand the level of damage oil bunkers have caused the area. Apart from the environmental damage, there were illegal refineries, vehicles, illegal crude oil mining activities, and equipment being used. In this exclusive video footage, the oil thieves can be seen in action. Addressing newsmen shortly after inspecting the newly set up surveillance technology, he said the federal government will stop at nothing in crushing the illegal business.
To check the activities of the saboteurs, NBC Limited has set up a new security architecture to serve as a solid response to detect, deter, respond, and recover. The new security architecture leverages collaboration between the upstream operators, industry regulators, government security agencies, and private security contractors.
He said the continued campaign by government security agencies have arrested 210 suspects and the confiscation of 20.2 million liters of AGO, 461.8 thousand liters of PMS, 843.6 thousand liters of VPK, and 383.5 thousand barrels of crude oil.
An additional 365 illegal refining sites have been destroyed, with about 8,000 refining ovens, 1,210 metal stone tanks, 838 dugout pits, you saw the pits yourself, both physically and in real time now, and 346 reservoirs destroyed by the government security agencies. We've witnessed firsthand today a number of illegal refineries destroyed by our military in the course of our area surveillance.
He equally commended the foresight of NNPC Limited for investing in technology which has the capacity to monitor real-time activities going on in the nation's crude oil belts. Anthony Forsen, NTA News.
Environmental protection for a viable ecosystem is at the center of a collaborative effort between the federal and Borno state governments training for rural women on the use of energy-efficient stoves as a means of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The training, organized by the Northeast Development Commission (NEDC), is geared towards reducing pollution through adaptive household practices to reduce climate change and was held at Lake Chad Research Institute in Maiduguri, the state capital. Mohammed Ibrahim reports.
The drying up of Lake Chad, southward expansion of the Sahara Desert, floods being experienced across many states, and the menace of the herdsmen-farmers clashes necessitated by the diminishing availability of forests and grazing lands are obvious problems associated with climate change. The federal government of Nigeria is now resting on its powers to empower rural communities with knowledge and tools through the Northeast Development Commission, as stated by the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Mohammed Goni Al-Kali, in a message that it remains committed to the well-being of citizens by withstanding the effects of climate change among other interventions in the areas of health, education and the economy. The effects of climate change in the region have exacerbated different conflicts in the Northeast, from insurgency to communal conflicts over the years, which facilitators at this training say has extended to scarcity of water, arable land and nutrition, among others, that require adaptation and use of energy-efficient stoves.
To stand the climate change or reduce the effect on us as human beings and on our environment, we are sensitizing the rural people or even the urban people to reduce these causes of pollution.
The 50 participants of the two-day training who received energy-efficient stoves and certificates were full of gratitude to the government, noting that they have become well-informed to change their cooking methods to eco-friendly practices. In Maiduguri, Muhammadu Ibrahim, NTA News.
You're watching Weekend File on the NTA. Do join us again after the break. Welcome back. Researchers have described this year's flood as the worst since the one recorded in 2012. Their concern is the continued rise of major rivers in the country and people refusing to relocate. Musa Ali reports that as at Friday, water in River Benue has risen above 11 meters that could trigger overflow if it hits above 12 meters.
This is Egagi, a farming community in Lavu local government area of Niger State. The community is synonymous with flood due to its location along the bank of River Kaduna. All efforts to relocate the people by the state and local government over the years proved abortive. The people go through harrowing experience every rainy season as floods take over their homes.
10 persons live inside one room, inside the town, and then we have disease now inside our village now.
Moreji is another community on the bank of River Niger. Flood has been a major threat to the fishing community. In 2013, the people rejected a plan to relocate them to the upper land. The people told me that fishing and rice cultivation is their major occupation. As such, they need to stay along the bank of the river. Abubakar said government needs to provide social amenities at the proposed site to convince the people to relocate.
By the time we get full support and the contribution of the federal government, authority and the state government to ensure that the new Mulegi is well, is habitable to live by the people, with our responsibility of the traditional rulers or leaders to encourage the people to move.
Opposite to other communities along River Niger in the state, as well as in Kwara and Kebbi, shows flood took over their homes as well as their farms.
The disaster is
Emir of Yawuri advocated the dredging of River Niger as solution to the yearly overflow.
The dredging of the River Niger and other major rivers in the country, and also dredging of dams like Yorongo and other dams in the country, will help a long way in minimizing the disastrous effect of the flood.
Investigation revealed that the flood along rivers Niger, Benue, Kaduna, and Rima in Sokoto State was triggered by the release of excess water from dams within and neighboring Cameroon. The custodians of the dam said letting out water has become necessary to save the reservoir from collapsing. There is the fear that the continued rise in the water level could create more social and economic challenges in the country if not mitigated. From Lavon local government area of Niger State, Musa Aliyu, NTA News.
And joining us in the studio is Al Hassan Nuhu, Director, Relief and Rehabilitation, NEMA. You're welcome to Weekend File.
Thank you very much.
The flood continues to wreak havoc in most areas of our country, and relocation and evacuation appear to be the watchword now. So what is the situation has been monitored by NEMA?
Well, as it has been said repeatedly by the Climate Services Agency, that this water is coming, and it has come. And to complicate the already rising water level within the local frontiers, water is being released from neighboring Lagbo Dam in Cameroon. What we told the people at the frontline states is first and foremost is to evacuate to safety. We have 15 zonal, territorial and operational offices across the country. We engage the state governments to be able to move as a matter of priority people to safety. Evacuation all over the world is largely a local prerogative. The prerogative to evacuate is a local issue. But the information coming from the national level. So what we do is to support the states to do that. And we are doing that in all the states. There are, of course, challenges telling people to leave. There are pull factors. There are factors that pull them to remain, even though the dangers are apparent that you need to leave. In some of the states, like in Adamawa, there are hostels built after 2012 flood. There are hostels in 24 hard-hit states in the country. Some of these hostels are not at the epicenter of the flood. So you have problem like in Adamawa, the IDP hostel is in Gire area, while the flooding is at the normal side. So there is wide gap. So we are still going through what we don't want to do. You find primary schools being converted to IDP resettlement centers. In some areas, the hostels built are being put to use. But in most of the states, you find that even in Kebbi State, the center is up the area of the flood. So you find difficulty taking people from that side to the area. Like in along the Sokoto Kebbi border, there is a bridge in Tambol that has been washed away. That community, since 2012, they have identified a higher ground for them to move, and they refuse. It's only this year that they have seen the flood has taken over the whole community.
So they are forced to move.
They are forced to move.
The hostels you're referring to are built by
the Presidential Committee on Flood Relief and Rehabilitation. You remember in 2012 we had a very devastating flood that affected about 26 states of the Federation. And that caused about more than 2.6 trillion in economic damages. And we are witnessing something similar to 2012 now. So those, after when the Presidential Committee came on board,
yes,
they built 2 hostels in each of the 24 hard-hit states. And the idea really is when flood come, you evacuate people to those hostels, at least to give them temporary shelter. When the flood recede, they can go back to their locations.
Okay, let's talk some more immediately after the break. Do stay with us on Weekend File. Thank you for staying with us. We are looking at averting flood disaster, and we still have Al Hassan Nuhu, Director, Relief and Rehabilitation, NEMA, with us in the studio. While we may not have control over saving some of these crops that are being washed away by the flood, but we should be able to do something about saving lives, and that's where this relocation and evacuation come. Now, we know most people don't want to leave the danger zones. So what is next, at least from the perspective of NEMA?
Well, the next is to continue to advocate to these people that life comes first. I'm happy I saw the SNFA appealing to the people. You continue to advocate to them. Enforcing evacuations is always problematic. It's chaotic, it's problematic, it's the last resort. What you do is to advocate to them. Talk to people who matters to them, to talk to them. I'm glad I saw the SNFA speaking to the people. You involve religious leaders, the community leaders. Life first before any other thing. Evacuate to safety, then provisions are made for them. We have preposition materials while they are evacuated to provide them food, non-food items, basic necessities of life while the flood lasts. If it recedes, then they can go back to their houses. It's important they understand the need to evacuate, and that is why we need to dissipate a lot of energy in building the capacity of the communities, building their capacity to understand that these warnings are real, and the only available option is to evacuate.
Okay.
As I've said, enforcement comes after advocacy. If all advocacy, if all awareness creation fails,
other measures,
then the people have to be forced to leave.
All right, we want to thank you for your submissions tonight on Weekend Fire. Thanks indeed.
Thank you very much.
We'll be talking with Al Hassan Nuhu, Director of Relief and Rehabilitation, NEMA, on Weekend Fire. Let's quickly go on another break. When we return, sport some more. Sports update is next. That concludes Weekend File tonight on the NTA. Thanks indeed for watching, and do remember to support NTA in the fight against rape and rapists. I am Kenan Ima Abonike. Good night.